Alright, so if you're a fashion brand and you want to run ads on social media, you need to have efficient copywriting in order to be successful. And in this video, I'm basically going to teach you everything you need to know to create efficient copywriting to ultimately generate more money, which I just wrote right here. So let's just get started with this video, shall we? So talking about copywriting, there are obviously some fundamentals that are very, very important to understand. But at the same time, there's no blueprint for what you should exactly do, because no brand are equal, meaning that a good copywriting for this brand may not be a good copywriting for this brand, right? So it's very, very important to just understand these fundamentals and then aligning them with your brand identity, because brand identity comes first. But at the same time, these fundamentals is something that you can utilize to ultimately increase your efficiency in your copywriting. So the fundamentals I'm going to take you through is based on this book right here called Breakthrough Advertising by Eugene Schwartz. It's a big recommendation if you want to become an expert in copywriting and advertising in general. And the first one is understanding market sophistication. And what this basically means is how much do the market know about your product? So are you an established brand? Are you a brand new brand? Brand new brand, that sounded funny. Anyway, that will ultimately determine how you're gonna approach your copywriting. Because, for example, if you take Louis Vuitton, all they need to do is just basically announce that they have new products and people will ultimately get attracted to it, right? Because they already know who Louis Vuitton is. Whereas if you're a new brand, you want to convince the potential customers to check you out, right? Because they have no knowledge about you. So having this in mind basically, gives you the beginning step in terms of starting the copywriting process. And this kind of transitions into this stages of awareness, which consist of five stages. The first one is unaware, meaning customers don't know they have a problem. And this basically translates into, I'll come up with an example here. Mr. Johnson, he's a very, very casual dude. He's been wearing jeans and white t-shirts every day for the past 20 years and he loves it. He doesn't know that he has a problem, meaning that he don't really care about, elevating his style, becoming more fashionable. So when people are in this unaware stage in regard to fashion brands, that means that you are trying to convince people who are unaware that they need your clothes, because obviously they are satisfied. They don't know they have a problem with their current style, right? The next one is problem aware. And again, here, let's take Mr. Johnson. So he suddenly gets an epiphany and he wants to elevate his style. But that is just a thought, right? Because he don't know where to start. He don't know what to do. So this is kind of where you can position yourself as the solution, meaning that, okay, if you, for example, are a brand that helps people with a casual style transition into a more fashionable style, well, that ultimately solves Mr. Johnson's problem, right? The next one is solution aware, and that means again that customers know solutions exist but don't know about your product. So let's say that Mr. Johnson, again, he has been looking on new clothes and he likes a white shirt. He definitely thinks a white shirt is something that is going to improve his style, but he hasn't yet come to discover your product. So what you want to do here is kind of come in and introduce your product and obviously introduce your brand, because there are obviously a lot of competitors in this field with white shirts. So it's your job to come in and basically tell Mr. Johnson why it's your brand that he should purchase from. The next one is product aware, and this is kind of where he has found some options in regard to this white t-shirt, but he doesn't really know whether or not it's your white t-shirt that he wants. So instead of introducing your brand, how can I put this? Instead of letting him know that it's the brand, that it's your brand that he needs to buy from, you wanted to angle it as it's your product that beats all the other products, if that makes sense. So up in solution aware, it's kind of brand versus brand. And in product aware, it's product versus product, right? So up here, you would, for example, in solution aware, you would, for example, have a fast fashion company that does white t-shirts, and you have which are sustainable, good quality white shirt brand. And up here, it's obviously, fast fashion versus sustainability. And down here, it will probably be more like comfort versus price, for example. So fast fashion, obviously, the quality might not be as good. But at the same time, it's still going to get purchased because it's cheap, right? Whereas a sustainability shirt that has a lot more comfort, has a lot more, how can you say, it's contributing to the environment, X, Y, and Z, will ultimately drive up the price. And here it's, it obviously in the end, it's up to Mr. Johnson to choose which one he wants to choose. But it's your job to like be specific on how, not on how, but on the way that you are presenting yourself. Because, being a sustainability brand, for example, if that's you want to be as concise and be as precise as possible in the way you present yourself as a sustainability brand. Because obviously there are a lot of sustainability brands, but the way they present themselves through their ads is ultimately the way they're going to determine whether or not they will get the majority of sales of the white shirts or not, right? So I really hope you get my points with this. I know it can be kind of complicated. I just don't want to make this video too long. But the last one is most aware. And this is basically, customers are ready to buy and just need reassurance or a push. And Mr. Johnson, in this case, he has seen your shirt and determined, well, this is the best one of all. But he still needs that last push to make the order, right? So what you want to come in and do here is kind of further back up the claim that you are the right choice. And well, how do you do that? You can do it by the testimonials. You can show previous satisfied customers. You can show features in magazines. More or less, social proof is a very, very strong element in this stage, because us humans, if we see a lot of other people do a thing, we tend to do the same, right? And that is kind of the same when it comes to buying stuff. So if you have a shirt which Mr. Johnson likes and he needs that last push, well, a good idea would be to tell Mr. Johnson that you won't regret buying this right now because look at all our previous customers. But at the same time, this approach to ads wouldn't exist up here because 5,000 previous customers wouldn't be as valuable as introducing your brand probably, because again, different stages of awareness, right? So I'm sorry about that. So I hope you get my point with these 5 stages right here. So let's just move on. So the power of headlines basically is, one sentence, some words that is going to grab their attention, that is going to make the potential customer read the rest and look at the rest of your ad, right? So obviously on social media, it is the picture and the video which is going to capture the most attention, right? But at the same time, people might read, meaning that, that first sentence that you are pushing in your ads is ultimately going to determine whether or not they will read line 2 and line 3, right? So in the headlines, it's very, very important to be concise, to be unique, and don't write anything that anybody else write. So, having a headline which is basically discover our new arrivals. Well, let me tell you something. A lot of other brands writes the exact same thing, meaning that it's not unique. It's not going to make you stand out unless obviously you are Louis Vuitton or a brand in this caliber. So the headline is also a very, very important aspect here because that is the words. You have your video and your picture that is going to capture their attention, but you also have this headline which also will capture attention if you do it the right way. The next thing is the big idea, and here I could potentially write mission/vision. And that is also something that you want to emphasize in your ads, right? Because your mission and vision should be unique, meaning that, expressing this in your ads will be a good idea because it will make you stand out and it will resonate with your target audience, right? So again, if you're a 100% sustainable brand and you emphasize this in your ads and your vision is to, revolutionize the fashion industry and make all clothes recyclable, for example, I don't know. This is something that you want to highlight, right? Because that is something that will resonate with your target audience, meaning that they will check you out. The next one is emotional and logical appeals. And this is basically the quote, which is people buy with emotions and purchase with logic. And so, for example, Louis Vuitton, again, their emotional appeals is basically that, when you buy their product, they will give you a sense of high value, they will give you a sense of status, and this is something that their products provide, right? So having a Louis Vuitton bag will also make you feel cool, will make you feel high valued, and this is something that Louis Vuitton's products gives you. The logical appeals about this is that it's high quality, it's expensive, and when you go inside their stores, they're gonna make you feel like a king or queen or whatever. I can also give you an example. For example, it wouldn't make sense to have a brand like Louis Vuitton, and then they would sell their bags for like 50 euros. The emotional appeals might be there, but the logical appeals wouldn't. And like these two things have to align, right? So having a very, very bold emotional appeal and not backing it up with the logic will ultimately not be very, very good for you. The social proof is basically what I talked about up here in the most aware. But the social proof is when you implement, previous customers, Trustpilot rating, features in magazines, X, Y, and Z to back up basically what you're claiming, right? So let's say that you're selling the softest t-shirt in the world. Well, if you have zero previous satisfied customers, well, the claim that you're the softest t-shirt in the world might not be true compared to if you have 100,000 previous satisfied customers, right? Well, then there's actually something about you saying you have the world's softest t-shirt, if that makes sense. So the next one here is understanding human desires. And this is where you really want to think about what does your target audience ultimately want? Like, what is their desire? Is it love? Is it status? Is it self-improvement? That could be a lot of stuff, right? And this is obviously very important because you want to approach your marketing to appeal to this desire, right? Again, if Louis Vuitton did their marketing to self-improvement, that wouldn't really make sense, right? They have to do it to status. They have to do it to high value because that is what their products represent. So understanding your human desires is very, very important as well, and that is something that you should have in mind when you write your copywriting. The next thing is make the reader visualize, and basically what I mean here is that your copywriting to some extent should sound like a story, meaning that you should use words that evoke imagination, if that makes sense. So writing "we sell t-shirts" compared to "our t-shirts are reusable, they're made from plastic from the Pacific Ocean, it saves turtles, X, Y, and Z." The difference here is basically that when reading the second example that I just gave, it evokes imagination. You can kind of visualize that. All right, by buying this T-shirt, I can picture turtles being happy in the ocean. I can see the seas, the plastic in the seas get removed. I can see the water is blue. X, Y, and Z. Bear with me. I'm just trying to make stuff up here, but I really hope you get my point. The last thing is USPs, or unique selling points, and basically what this is something that you can include in your copywriting that gives you concise points on what makes you stand out from your competition. And again, this doesn't really align with all brands. That's why I put it in parentheses. But for example, if you have a sustainable brand, again, I know I'm using the same examples here, but then a USP could, for example, be our t-shirt is made from 1 kilo of plastic. We donate to charity. It's kind of, and you've seen it before, where you have the emoji and then a sentence out of it, and then you have like 3 in a row, right? This is USPs, and that is something that aligns with some brand identities, and other brand identities, they don't want to utilize this because the brand basically speaks for itself. But be cautious with this and really think about it, because in some scenarios, letting the brand speak for itself might not work, basically. So that's basically all the fundamentals here, but I still want to give you some more hands-on advice on how you can approach your copywriting. So I've made some do's and don'ts, and if we look at the first one over here, it's personalize your message and use some power words. So the do here is, the brand name. I've written my company's name, NDS. It's of course optional whether or not you want to include that. But here I've written the brand that creates the softest t-shirts in the world. So this is personalized because we are claiming to create the softest t-shirts in the world. Obviously, there are a lot of other brands which can say the same, but it's still personalized to our brand, if that makes sense. So compared to this don't, which is basically discover our new collection on our website today. I mean, that isn't really personalized, even though I'm selling the softest t-shirts in the world, right? Because over here, you're kind of betting that people will find out or people already know. And that is like, we don't really want to take risks in marketing when it comes to things that, you know, we can basically figure out from the beginning, right? And what I mean by power words here is for example, in this example right here, that I'm saying the brand, the softest t-shirt. So instead of saying a brand that creates soft t-shirts, you know, using the in this case kind of, you know, powers up the claim I'm trying to make, right? Going down into social proof, we kind of talked about this. I've just written, you know, tested by X amount of people, seen in Vogue, Forbes, GQ, whatever. I mean, this can be written in a lot of ways. But the don't here is, you know, leaving it out. The next one is keeping it concise. And here I've, you know, really tried to just think that less is more, because it really is, because people's attention span nowadays is very, very low, meaning that if they see a big text like this, the chance of them reading through it is very, very low. So over here saying, you know, the brand that creates the softest t-shirts in the world, seen in Vogue, Forbes, GQ, Portuguese production, check out our product on our website today, 10% off your first order. Compared to we are in this and we make the softest t-shirts in the world. They are made with the finest cotton by our local manufacturers in Portugal, and we are so proud of our final product. Also featured in various magazines such as Vogue, GQ, Forbes, Hypebeast, and a lot of others. I mean, I don't think I have to continue here, but because you get my point, right? And it's very, very important to be objective here, because you can kind of get into the flow when you're about to advertise your brand, because obviously you know a lot about your brand, and if you could decide, people should know everything about your brand, right? And this could end up in you writing a too long text, and that is something that we want to avoid, because if people like your brand, they will get to know more about your brand. But when you're reaching a cold audience, for example, like new customers, well, then you should be as short and concise as possible while still implementing the things that needs to be implemented, right? The next thing is structure. And here my only point is basically to divide the text into manageable chunks to consume. So what I've done here is, so the world here, imagine that it's up here, right? So it's 2 sentences, 1 space, and then the last sentence down here compared to this over here. So to the left, we have manageable chunks to consume, because it's like 2 sentences, a space, and then a sentence again, rather than 3 sentences that just looks very condensed, right? And this is again a psychological aspect, because, and I think you can imagine it yourself, like what would you rather write, you know, a sentence space, a sentence space, a sentence space, or 5 sentences in, you know, condensed? I really hope that you chose the first example, because that is what psychologically is the easiest way to consume text, and something that you should consider when writing your copywriting. The last thing, which is the most important thing of it all, is that you need to test and iterate. And what I mean by this is that it's very unlikely that you in your first try will be able to create a copywriting that will just take you to the moon, right? I mean, things can always get better, and it's very, very important never to be satisfied, or at least, you know, never to stop testing out new things, because I've given you a framework here, which I would say is a quite efficient blueprint, fundament, whatever you want to call it. But at the same time, as I also mentioned in the beginning, brands are different and target audiences are different, meaning that you should test out different things to find out what ultimately resonates with your target audience. Because having the same text and, you know, just trying different videos and pictures, well, ultimately you are just gonna lock yourself and limit yourself in terms of growth in your campaigns, because you can never be satisfied with where you are. You always have to try and test new stuff out, try to angle things differently, try to advertise to the different stages of awareness right here, see which ones are most profitable, and then scale, do whatever you want, right? So yeah, that's the end of this video. I hope I helped you somewhat wiser upon how to create good copywriting. At last, if you're struggling to do this stuff yourself and you're wasting your precious time figuring this out, well, you can actually click the first link in the description below. By doing that, we can just have a casual talk about how my company can help yours solve these problems, right? If we're a match, I will try to pitch you a potential partnership. I'm not going to pretend I'm not. Obviously, I don't want to force you to do this. All I wanted to do with this video is to provide free value for you and your brand. But at the same time, I still wanted to highlight the opportunity in case you're interested. So that's all for this video. Please like it if you found it valuable. It will all help us a lot, and it will actually also ensure that the algorithm will recommend more videos for you like this one for the future. Also, feel free to comment any video ideas, struggles, whatever you might have, and I'll do my best to create a video for it. And at last, subscribe if you want more content for us. I wish you a wonderful day, and thank you so much for watching this video. Bye.